Welcome to Chaos2Cured podcast. You are here with Jeffrey Fried and Kirk Patrick Miller. Today, we're going to jump into something that I think is really important to talk about, which is learning to kind of appreciate the person that you are, not feeling pressured to be somebody else because you feel like that's what society wants or what maybe your family wants. And of course, I'm not saying, I just want to say it right away, I'm not saying don't listen to your parents or anything like that. What I'm saying is don't shape yourself around what everybody else wants. I think I went through a lot of my life feeling like I had to do certain things or be a certain way because I saw it on TV. Now we have social media. So people think, oh, I have to do this. I have to copy this. I have to be this. And that pressure is overwhelming for a lot of the individuals I work with. Some of them try so hard to be perfect all day long or happy. So they present this facade because they think it's important that they're always happy. You know, we've talked about this in the past a little bit. Sometimes when there's this repressed pressure that we're under, I mean, I think your analogy, Jeffrey, when we were talking about before was like a steam, like a pot of kettle or a kettle boiling, right? You just, if that heat just stays on and it's capped, what was it?
A pressure cooker.
Yes. Such a perfect analogy because it's like that pressure is just trapped. And, you know, I think that there's not an easy way to tell people how to, you know, I guess the easiest thing for me and what I've done with some of these individuals is ask what they see themselves as a person in like 15 years. So a lot of these people, like, let's say they're like 13, 14, 15 years old. 15 years is a huge, that's their whole lifetime that they're looking forward. And the most common thing is they go, well, I don't know what I want to be. Like they think of a career because every adult asks them for what career they're doing. Like, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be a lawyer? What do you want to be? And I say, no, I don't want a career. I was like, what do you see? What is that person? What kind of, are you confident? Are you in a management position? What would that person do? And it's interesting because once they conceptualize, oh, this is the person like I really want to be, then all of a sudden they don't feel as much pressure to put on a show. It also helps them analyze, like we talked about before, like if you take this action, you know, what's the repercussion? It's kind of the same thing. It's like, okay, what would that person do? And so my future self, how would they react? It's a nice way to reflect. And the other thing is once you start realizing the person you want to become and you just do it, the pressure to be somebody else goes away. I mean, I know so many people are lost. And we've talked about ANOMIE, the social ANOMIE to people that are listening. So the social concept of ANOMIE. I think a lot of people are very lost and there's so much data coming at us. There's social media. There's just the internet is massive. There's billions of people on this planet. It is overwhelming. So how do you find who you're supposed to be? What makes you special? And from what I'm seeing, I see a lot of individuals that I work with that feel lost. They don't feel like they fit in anywhere. The cliques in school are odd to them. And this is not just individuals that are neurodivergent. I think every human being on this planet right now is still kind of struggling with some of this stuff. What's your take on some of this?
I think it's the culprit is social media, and the fact that we have so many people and so much stuff coming at us. The main problem with social media, there's so many, but the main one for me is that people portray their lives on it as exciting, stimulating. They're always doing something. Money is not an object. They've got a million friends. And what ends up happening is for somebody who is, you know, just a normal average person doing well, they just can't come off in their own minds as being able to compete with these wonderful people who are having these wonderful lives and lots of friends and money's not an object. And you compare yourself against that, which is, of course, a facade, you're going to come up feeling short. When you come up feeling short, you start, you just give up and you get depressed. The reality is virtually everybody on social media is living a facade. Um, a lot of those people that you think, my God, what wonderful lives they have. They travel, they have friends, they're attractive. Yeah, they're using filters for the attraction. The traveling may or may not be true, but maybe they borrowed to get on the trip. There's so many possible things that are not perfect, but when we have a generation of people, and the people I work with, which were mostly on the spectrum, they kind of don't, they're not that affected by this because they're living in their own heads anyway. But there's lots of people who are mildly on the spectrum or just average people who put a lot of pressure on themselves anyway, because that's the profile of the visual spatial learner. A lot of times gifted people are incredibly hard on themselves. Most of the time they are. And when you
Well,
put yourself against a facade of perfection, you're going to come up feeling short. So I think the most important thing for people nowadays is to realize that virtually everybody's acting and they're not as together as they would seem on Facebook or anything else. It's simply that some people are playing the game and some people aren't. And by the game, I mean the facade of being a social butterfly, of having a wonderful life, great looking girl or boyfriends, money. It's a phony society, and in order to keep up, you've got to project your stuff too. That you are having a wonderful time and life is a breeze, and you're so happy with your boy or girlfriend, and it's mostly crap. Um,
I
one of my
agree.
one of my best friends told me, and he's one of those people that's Chamber of Commerce, knows everybody in town, and has got a beautiful house and a beautiful wife, and everything's going. And he was a banker for 25 years in the community. He said, Jeff, don't believe any of that crap about these people having wonderful lives. So many of their kids are addicted to some drug. They're bankrupt or heading to bankruptcy. Um, their kids hate them. They hate their kids. And he told me it's much more common than you think. Um,
Yeah.
Most people live lives of quiet desperation, I do believe. Now, there are some people that are doing really, really well, but not most of them. And when you compare yourself against an idealized um, person, a person who is repressing all the real feelings and try to make everyone think that they're a real wonderful winner and stuff, you are going to come up short. So the first step is to realize that it's not real, and that these people that you're so admiring and falling in love with are, just human beings who are exaggerating and try to come off as best they can. So others will feel that they're a winner and that life is easy for them. Life's not easy for anybody. I don't care who you are, you've got problems.
No. Yeah,
So it's an unrealized model.
at the I read about a group. It's actually becoming kind of common practice. So all of these people are sharing purchasing like a Lamborghini,
Fascinating.
literally just for social media. So
Yeah, so they can have
it,
it, like they can have it for a day, and then their buddy can have it for
then
another
they get
day.
it the next day. And so they're driving around and it is a facade. It literally is showing something that they're not capable of doing. A lot of these individuals also sell services. So the moment I am on social media, I honestly don't spend much time. I go on to post something and that's it. I hop off. I spend way more time probably on Twitter, mostly because I love to write. So when I'm typing on Twitter, it's a form of journaling and writing for me. Honestly, the interactions are not always very pleasant. So for me, you have to have a thick skin. And I like what you said before. The honestly, the social media is just devastating. One of the things that I want to bring up is in relationships, there is a massive amount of pressure put on both males and females to come up with things that are honestly time consuming and expensive. So like Valentine's Day is coming up.
Oh,
So I'm sure this show might air after Valentine's Day, but it's so interesting. You hop on Pinterest and you see one romantic thing after another. And what does everybody expect? They expect this grand gesture. And honestly, a lot of times when I watch this stuff, some of them make me happy because it's off the cuff, it's natural. The ones that are pre-made, like I've seen a whole bunch of wedding videos where people are dancing. Yeah, if they love dancing, great. But when you get every single person and they have to practice for months for a 5-minute video because they want to go viral, it drives me crazy. It leaves out variables that other people don't understand. So how much time goes into it? How much money goes into it? If you're working 2 or 3 jobs like a lot of people, how do you find that time? And then you have to live up to this expectation. And when you don't, then you feel guilty, down, right?
right.
And what do? You have to spend more time on the social media so you can get ahead. You can figure out what those grand plans are. You can get inspired. For me, I always loved genuine feelings. I don't like anything fake. It really has always bothered me. So for me, I prefer when you see, a wedding video where somebody slips up and they make a mistake, like, they say a goofy word and everybody giggles. It's cute. It's not, it wasn't meant to be viral. It goes viral because it's innocent, it's pure. I like those, but they are definitely in the minority. And I do want to circle back to, just because my niece definitely feels an unimaginable pressure to please every single person. And I don't know where that pressure came from, but that is something that I do see in my clients that are on the spectrum where they feel, and that's kind of the other pressure that I wanted for us to kind of talk about a little, is that immense amount of pressure to, I guess, live up to an expectation that's unrealistic. And what I notice with people on the spectrum is their realistic view is not realistic. So if they have to be happy, it has to be happy all the time for everyone all the time. If you have to, if you have to feel like or if you have to get a good grade, they feel pressure not just to get a good grade on one exam. It's like on everything. Everything they do, they feel this pressure. And a lot of times they don't communicate they're even feeling that pressure, and it comes out in an outburst. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, all you guys do is like yell at me about this and this and this. And everyone's like, what do you mean? Like, we've never yelled. We're not talking about that. It's the pressure. And so it actually feels to them like somebody's yelling at them.
Yep.
That is kind of that internalized pressure that I do feel social media. I do feel movies and everything we see in magazines and on the media. It idealizes, and then the individuals on the spectrum are trying so hard to fit in. They look at that stuff and they believe some of that stuff is real. And it's not like I want to make sure I'm very clear. I personally believe some of the people on the spectrum are by far and away the smartest minds on the planet. So I'm not saying that they're not smart enough to see this. What I'm saying is that they get distracted because they want so badly to please sometimes. And that's a toxic behavior, because they don't realize that sometimes that pressure that they're putting on themselves is honestly causing damage. You're raising cortisol levels. You're honestly, the stress that goes into that, most people would break. The fact that they can carry on day by day and hide it for months at a time is honestly, it's heart-wrenching when I see her kind of break down and burst out, because I also feel guilty, because I'm like, how didn't I catch that? And a lot of times what we've had to do, and I've done this with other individuals that are on the spectrum, is work on them understanding that their expectations, that what they're expecting from other people is not even what those people are looking for. Sometimes I would say she goes way above and beyond, if that makes sense. So she is expecting, maybe if she does this, like, oh, if I maybe ask for this, the reaction is going to be extreme. So expectations are another big thing. And we should probably do a show about that. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but what about that kind of pressure? Is there any way that, you've worked with thousands of these individuals? What are some things that you maybe give some, like, in terms of advice, or not even advice, just ways you've helped them work through it?
Well, that's a tough thing to answer, and I wasn't planning on going there, but I'll do the best I can, because I know a lot about what you're talking about. I've been dealing with it for years.
You helped me a ton. So
Well, thank you. It's like most of the time, bright people, and especially people that are very bright and maybe have some hard challenges, like someone on the spectrum, and the highly gifted visual spatial person. I mean, everybody in the world wants to be the best. I mean, it's a human drive. You want to reach your potential. You want to leave this earth better than when you came upon it. But again, people on the spectrum and people that are very bright have all the senses everyone else does, just more so. So you get someone who's driven to be the best, and they're not coming out that way because there's too much competition, and a lot of the competition is like it's the equivalent of a runner who does, or a bike rider who does drugs, and one who doesn't. You're going to be great if you do, lots of testosterone and EPO, and you're not going to be as great no matter how talented you are if you don't. Well, it's almost the same thing. It's almost the same thing. The people that they're competing against, the other humans, who are in class with them or working with them, they are projecting that image of perfection, of confidence. And then you have these real sensitive people that want to be the best at stuff, and they think they realize that they can't be. So what ends up happening is they quit. Psychologically, they stop trying, because the amount of pressure, internal pressure that they put on themselves, it's just too much for them to handle. So you got a couple of choices. You can act like you're not interested in playing anymore, which is what so many of them do, and psychologically drop out. Or you work very, very hard against overwhelming odds and you succeed. But you're not, the game's rigged. You're playing against people who aren't telling you the truth. And one thing about people that I work with is they're most all
very
of them
truthful.
truthful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they quit. And then they're angry at themselves. They get angry at the world. They repress the anger. It comes out in outbursts. It comes out in extreme anxiety. It shouldn't be that way. It's kids nowadays, they know everything. They know about sex. They know about all kinds of stuff because it's on the internet, and they're always on their devices, and they see people who are supposedly better off than they are, and the pressure gets too great, and they quit. And a lot of them kill themselves too. It's no accident that we're living in this environment that people put so much pressure on themselves that they can't handle it, and they feel that if they drop out, they're going to be, poor, living in a homeless shelter, and they don't want to live that way, so they kill themselves. And the leading cause of death amongst people under 30, I don't know if it's suicide. It's suicide.
I think it is now.
The second one is homicide. Jesus,
It's just it's so scary, and one thing that you just said earlier, and I remember, you helping me with that, just don't give up. You really kind of kept me going. And there were a lot of times where I gave up on teachers left and right, because they would lose me instantly if they told something that wasn't like 100% factual. So I just stopped listening. I was very difficult to please as a student. The thing is that I was willing to try anything. No one ever challenged me. No one ever asked me to try. And I see that with a lot of the individuals that I do work with, especially those on the spectrum. They'll come to me, and all of a sudden the parents are like, okay, why? I have one little guy and he is just flying through music. It's unbelievable. And, in class, they're saying, oh, he's, subpar. And I'm sitting there, this kid is brilliant, He's bored. And, I don't want to get off on a tangent there. I want to circle back. You made sure I didn't give up. That was huge. The other thing that you really did that was very helpful is you would focus on some of the things that I was great at. And
Exactly.
you made me feel okay to be who I was. And I did not hear that message until I was like 42, like last year or 2 years ago. I mean, seriously, you kept doing that. And you've known me since I was like 11 or 12. I don't even remember. But that message of, be comfortable with who you are, be proud of who you are, don't hide from these things, be yourself, and you focused on the strengths. So the confidence you built up, never giving up, those things were key. And I definitely use those with individuals I work with. And I see the moment let me put it this way. If you have a child and they're trying their hardest and you use a red pin and you go wrong, 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 well, they just did everything they could to please you, and you just kind of spit in their
Spit on them.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so and this is very difficult for teachers and parents because they get frustrated. Why aren't they listening? They're not getting this. And so the frustration comes out. You got to stay calm. Number one. Number two, you focus on what they did right. Look at that. That's great handwriting. This was phenomenal. Look, you did that step right. You know what? Don't worry about this little mistake. Let's talk about it. How can we fix this? What happened? Were you overthinking? Were you worried? Ask some questions, but focus on what they did right. Yeah. So many of the people, and as a society, honestly, what do? We focus on flaws. Flaws sell. If you have a child,
we also think that if we praise a person, they'll get complacent, and so you don't want to praise them too much. They'll get complacent. They won't reach their potential. Well, that's basically bullshit. That is not true. For the people I work with, I don't know that they're that different from other people, but the people I work with, success breeds more success. Failure, because they're so hard on themselves, breeds quitting.
Crippling. Yep.
Yeah. So what we need to, again, it's like, if you're a visual spatial learner, you're going to be able to do hard math in your head, most likely, if you haven't been taught that you're not good at math, or be able to spell words forwards and backwards, or have incredible reading comprehension because you visualize so well. Focus on that. Because if you do, like I do this math thing where I do a lot of mental math with the students I work with, and they get real good at it because they visualize so well and they can hold the numbers in their head for a long period of time. And then you make them really, really good at fairly hard math problems that they don't even show their work. They do it all in their heads.
Yep.
And feel brilliant. And they're proud of themselves, and they're willing to try things that they never would have tried before. I think we come from a past generation. My parents were like this, that if you praise someone, they're going to rest on their laurels, and they won't.
It'll weaken them. Yep.
So that's crap. That's not realistic. And that's one of the reasons you have so many people who drop out psychologically and physically too. Very few people really get this still. And until they do, the problem is going to either get worse or stay the same.
I think this is something I hope everybody really listened to the end part. These are things that you can really do to help them embrace who they are. If they feel like a failure all the time, it's not going to lead to a happy individual. They will struggle more not because you're being mean, not because you have bad intent, but because they are already, their expectations of themselves are so high, and the pressure they put on themselves is already beyond the comprehension of most people. So a tiny failure is epic to them. So don't focus on the failure.
Self-esteem.
Yep.
Then
absolutely.
A failure just reminds you of how inferior you are.
Absolutely. And for me, those little mistakes, I still deal with them. When I make a little one, it beats me up for ages. And so I think it's really important. You were so good at that. You helped me find my strengths. You made me feel like I wasn't absolutely an idiot when all the teachers kind of treated me like I was. I wouldn't say all. I had a couple good ones.
You have an
Yeah,
IQ that's stratospheric, and you felt dumb. And
yeah,
Bell says it
absolutely.
all.
I felt so dumb and it was so frustrating. So that, but the individuals that saw that little spark and they focused on the good things, I would do anything for those teachers. So
Mhm.
remember that as a parent or as a
Very
teacher,
typical.
just you when you see somebody do something marvelous, why would it be a bad thing to reward them or tell them they did something amazing? There's
Yeah.
literally no reason. And I know that that's counter, like you said, it's not going to make people weak. Success makes people happy. Happy makes things fun. When you have fun, it's play. Your neuroplasticity is more effective. This is just a logical step. You will learn better when you are feeling like you are successful. It's just that's what we need to start doing and make them embrace themselves. Make them proud of who they are every day. Mention how proud you are of what they've accomplished. Yes, we all can find faults with another person in an instant.
So
We need to move past that. And it's really important with individuals on the spectrum. I just wanted to bring that out because I think it's really important. So this show was, Jeffrey, thank you for all you did for
welcome.
me
My
and for
pleasure.
all you've done for so many. So do you have anything to add or should we close it
No,
up?
I think it's been said.
Okay.
People will either get it or they won't. Hopefully they will.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me and thanks everyone for listening. Please, write in with questions. I'm still trying to figure out how to answer some people. So if you haven't gotten answered, I will get to you for sure. So thanks so much and have a beautiful week. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening to Chaos2Cured podcast. If you enjoyed this show, please share it with everyone you know. And definitely like, follow, and subscribe. Certainly leave a comment if you'd like. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about the next time. Also, in our show notes, there should be direct links where you can follow us on our social media, as well as reach out to us directly. Thanks again, and have a great day. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on Chaos2Cured podcast are the speaker's own. All discussion is based on our own experiences. We do not and cannot guarantee the accuracy or completeness of any information. Chaos2Cured podcast cannot give medical or health advice. All discussion is based upon our personal experiences and meant for general and educational purposes. This podcast is not a substitute for professional help or for diagnostic purposes for yourself or another. Chaos2Cured podcast always encourages you to consult an appropriate professional.